Welcome to District Command Central, your go-to source for the latest news and updates on the Washington Commanders. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a play. Man, Washington Commanders fans just can't catch a break this season. Every time it feels like there's a little light breaking through those dark clouds, something else comes crashing down. And this week, the gut punch came courtesy of star wide receiver Terry McLaurin. Yeah, Scary Terry, the heart, the soul, the spark of that Commanders offense, is officially out for Sunday's showdown against the Seattle Seahawks. Head coach Dan Quinn confirmed it himself on Wednesday. McLaurin's quad just isn't ready. That same nagging injury that kept him out for a month has flared up again. And that's brutal news for a team already walking a tightrope at 3-5. Now, before we dive into the doom and gloom, let's rewind a bit. Terry McLaurin had just returned from that 4-game absence, eager to remind everyone why he's been Washington's offensive cornerstone for years. And for a minute there, it really looked like he was back in rhythm. Against the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday night, McLaurin put up 3 catches for 54 yards and even found the end zone. That touchdown, it wasn't just a stat-padding moment. It was a message, a reminder of the explosiveness, the crisp route running, that fearless edge that's made him one of the most underrated wideouts in the league. But late in the game, as Washington's hopes were fading in that 28-7 loss, McLaurin came up limping again. You could see it on the sideline, that familiar grimace, that look of a player who knows his body just betrayed him for the second time this year. For McLaurin, this kind of setback has to be maddening. Remember, this is a guy who hadn't missed a single game in 72 straight appearances before that first injury back in September. 72. That's Iron Man stuff. He got hurt in the third quarter of a big 41-24 win over the Las Vegas Raiders, pulled up on a deep route, grimacing, and just like that, the streak ended. Fast forward to now, and it feels like déjà vu. Another promising return cut short, another frustrating step back in a season that's been nothing but turbulence. He's 30 now, no longer the young spark plug, but the respected veteran who's carried this offense through years of inconsistency. And after all that offseason drama, the holdout, the eventual 3-year contract extension signed just before the season on August 25th, this was supposed to be the year he led a new era. Instead, it's been one speed bump after another. Coach Dan Quinn tried to keep things positive during his press conference. He told reporters, "This is not something that will knock McLaurin out for a long time, we hope. But we're comfortable with where we're at." Classic coach speak, right? Calm, measured, the kind of thing you say to keep the locker room steady. But let's be real, losing McLaurin for even one game hurts. Especially this one. The Seahawks are no joke this season. They're hungry, balanced, and well-coached, and Sunday Night Football is not the stage you want to enter shorthanded. And while Quinn insists the Commanders won't be rushing to add another wide receiver, you have to wonder if that confidence is misplaced. Because without McLaurin, that receiver room suddenly looks thin. Real thin. But okay, let's shift gears for a second, because not everything coming out of Washington this week has been doom and despair. There's actually a glimmer of hope, and it comes in the form of rookie quarterback Jayden Daniels. Yeah, that's right. The franchise's shiny new centerpiece, the Heisman Trophy winner, the guy who was supposed to turn this thing around, might finally be back in action. Daniels missed the Chiefs game with a hamstring strain, and his absence was glaring. The offense looked flat, lifeless, like it was running in slow motion. Without his dual-threat magic, Washington couldn't sustain drives, couldn't stretch the field, couldn't do much of anything, honestly. But now, Quinn says the plan is for Daniels to practice in full this week. If all goes well, the kid's suiting up against Seattle. And man, what a difference that could make. You could feel it in Quinn's voice, that cautious optimism that maybe, just maybe, his franchise QB is ready to go. He called it a massive lift for the locker room, and he's not wrong. Daniels isn't just a player, he's an energy source. He walks into a room and people stand taller. His leadership is raw, authentic, and exactly what this franchise has been starving for. Just having him back out there, taking reps, slinging the ball, rallying teammates. That's the kind of thing that can breathe life into a team that's been teetering on the edge. Of course, it won't be easy. Coming back from a hamstring injury always carries risk, especially for a quarterback whose game relies so much on mobility and explosion. You can bet Seattle's head coach Mike McDonald will test that hamstring early and often. Expect blitzes, expect pressure, expect the Seahawks to make Daniels move, to force him out of his comfort zone and see just how healthy that leg really is. But if Daniels holds up, if he finds that early rhythm, then suddenly Washington's offense looks a lot more dangerous, even without McLaurin. Guys like Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, and rookie Jamison Crowder. Yes, he's back in the mix. We'll have to step up, but Daniels has shown he can elevate the players around him. That's what special quarterbacks do. They make everyone better. And look, it's not just about X's and O's here. This is about morale. This is about a locker room that's been through the ringer. Injuries, close losses, roster shakeups, and desperately needs something to believe in. Getting Daniels back gives them that spark. Fans can feel it too. You scroll through Commanders' Twitter right now, and it's a mix of heartbreak and hope. On one hand, people are crushed about McLaurin. On the other, they're rallying behind their rookie QB, already talking about the comeback game and how this could be the turning point of the season. Because if Daniels can lead them to a win in Seattle, under the bright lights of Sunday Night Football, it could shift the entire narrative. Let's not sugarcoat it. This season's been rough. Injuries have piled up like dominoes. Quinn's first year at the helm has been one long test of patience and adaptability. But even in the chaos, you can sense something building. This isn't the same old Washington team we've seen in years past. There's accountability. There's structure. There's a vision taking shape. And while McLaurin's setback is a punch to the gut, it's not the death blow. Quinn said it himself, this isn't expected to be long-term. Maybe it's a week, maybe two. And when McLaurin does come back, he'll be joining a team that, hopefully, has rediscovered its footing behind its young leader. It's funny. For years, Commanders fans have lived on hope. Hope that ownership would change. Hope that coaching would stabilize. Hope that a real quarterback would finally arrive. And now, for the first time in a long time, it feels like that hope might actually be justified. Jayden Daniels represents the future, the promise, the reset button this franchise has needed. And McLaurin, even sidelined, remains the emotional heartbeat. He's been through the lows, endured the noise, and kept showing up, week after week, as one of the league's most consistent professionals. That's why this injury stings so much, because he's earned better luck than this. But here's the thing about Terry McLaurin. He doesn't sulk. He doesn't check out. Even when he's not on the field, he's on the sideline coaching, mentoring, encouraging. That presence matters. And you can bet he'll be there in Seattle, hoodie on, headset in, helping his young QB navigate the chaos. Because that's what leaders do. And if Daniels can channel that energy, if he can turn this adversity into momentum, this could be the week that changes everything. So yeah, Commanders fans, it's another roller coaster week. You lose your star wideout, but you might regain your franchise quarterback. You're underdogs, on the road, in primetime, facing a playoff-caliber team. But that's football. It's drama. It's resilience. It's heartbreak and hope all rolled into one. And as crazy as it sounds, maybe, just maybe, this is exactly the kind of storm that forges something stronger. Because when McLaurin heals up and Daniels gets rolling, and this roster finally starts clicking, watch out. The Washington Commanders might just turn those dark clouds into thunder. If you're enjoying the coverage, make sure to smash that like button and drop a comment with your thoughts on the Commanders' latest moves. We want to hear from you. Just moments ago, the NFL world has been sent into absolute pandemonium. And if you thought you'd seen it all this season, think again, because the Washington Commanders have pulled off what could be described as one of the most shocking and audacious moves in recent football history. Sources, whispers, and a whirlwind of speculation have now turned into hard-hitting reality. The Commanders have officially closed a deal with none other than Myles Garrett, the defensive juggernaut, the terror of quarterbacks, the absolute game-changer on the defensive line. Yes, you heard it right. Myles Garrett, a player whose very name evokes fear in the hearts of offensive coordinators across the league, is reportedly now a Commander. And the reaction? The league is collectively holding its breath, the fan bases are exploding on social media, and analysts are scrambling to adjust their power rankings, because this move doesn't just shake the NFC East, it shakes the entire NFL landscape. Rumors had been swirling for weeks, almost as if the NFL had become a giant cauldron of speculation, with hot takes, insider leaks, and cryptic tweets flying around like confetti at a championship parade. Garrett's name was linked to multiple teams, of course, the usual suspects in the mix for a superstar of his caliber. Powerhouse squads in desperate need of a defensive edge, teams with playoff ambitions who were salivating at the thought of adding a player who can single-handedly change the trajectory of a game. But nobody, and I mean nobody, seemed to seriously predict that Washington, the Commanders, a franchise with its fair share of highs and lows, with seasons of promise sometimes cut short by inconsistency, would land him. And yet, here we are, staring at a reality that seems almost cinematic, the kind of headline that NFL Twitter can't stop tweeting about, and the kind of news that turns a casual Sunday football fan into a full-blown armchair analyst overnight. Think about it. Garrett is not just any defensive end. He's a player who has consistently terrorized quarterbacks with a combination of sheer speed, explosiveness, and football IQ that borders on the supernatural. Over the years, he's been the cornerstone of the Cleveland Browns' defensive schemes, the nightmare matchup every offensive line dreaded preparing for weeks in advance. And now, with him allegedly set to don the burgundy and gold, Washington is not merely adding a player. They are redefining their identity on defense. The implications are staggering. The Commanders' pass rush was already considered above average, but imagine pairing that with Garrett's unmatched ability to disrupt the pocket, to force turnovers, to command attention so consistently that offenses have no choice but to adjust their game plan entirely. This isn't just a signing. It's a strategic declaration, a statement that Washington is not content with being a middle-of-the-pack team. They are aiming for domination. Now, let's dive into what this could mean for the NFC East, because the ripple effects are enormous. The division, which has been dominated by the Dallas Cowboys and occasionally shaken up by the Philadelphia Eagles and the Giants, now faces a Commanders squad with a defensive star that can single-handedly change the complexion of every matchup. Every pass-heavy attack in the East is going to be under a microscope. Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, Daniel Jones. All of these quarterbacks now have to think twice, plan differently, maybe even rethink some of their most trusted offensive schemes, because Garrett isn't the kind of player you schematically ignore. He is the kind of player who forces creativity, forces respect, and, frankly, forces fear. And the buzz? Oh, the buzz is unreal. Social media is ablaze. Memes, reaction videos, hot takes, and breakdowns are circulating faster than you can say sack. And while some analysts caution about fit, team chemistry, and contract details, the overarching sentiment is clear. Washington has just hit a jackpot of defensive dominance, and the NFL might never be the same again. Of course, with news this explosive, the chatter about the financials and logistics is inevitable. Garrett is not cheap, and no player of his caliber comes without a significant price tag, both in terms of contract structure and cap implications. Insiders are speculating, some with confidence, some with barely contained excitement, about how Washington managed to navigate the salary cap maze to bring him in. Was there a trade involved? Did they restructure existing contracts to create the flexibility needed? Are we about to see a domino effect of moves in response to this blockbuster signing? All signs point to the Commanders' front office making a bold, calculated gamble, betting that the presence of a defensive superstar like Garrett not only elevates their on-field performance, but also energizes their fan base, attracts sponsorships, and sends a clear message across the league. Washington is serious about contending. And when you consider the optics, the timing, the intensity, the drama, it feels like a story straight out of Hollywood. But this is all real. The locker room reactions, while not yet fully revealed, are likely electric. Imagine being a young player on this team, already hungry to prove yourself, and suddenly hearing that one of the league's most feared defenders is joining your ranks. The mentorship potential alone is tantalizing. Garrett has experience, star power, and a relentless work ethic that could rub off on the next generation of Commanders. And for the fans, well, they're already imagining the chaos he can unleash on opposing quarterbacks, the highlight reels, the viral clips of devastating sacks and game-changing plays. Washington might have just acquired more than a player. They might have acquired a cultural shift, a new identity that could carry them into playoff contention and potentially into the conversation for a Super Bowl run that had previously felt just out of reach. Now, let's not ignore the league-wide reactions. Other teams are undoubtedly recalculating. Coaches are pacing their offices, offensive coordinators are redrawing playbooks, and general managers are peering nervously across the field at what might now be the most fearsome defensive front in the NFC. Draft strategies might shift, free agency priorities might be reconsidered, and suddenly, the entire dynamic of the league is subtly, yet powerfully, altered. The NFL is nothing if not reactive, and a move of this magnitude is like tossing a grenade into the calm waters of a preseason hierarchy. The Commanders are no longer just participants. They are contenders, and Garrett is the signal flare announcing it. As the story continues to develop, speculation runs wild. Will this signing catalyze further moves for Washington? Could this be the first step in a larger strategy to assemble a defensive powerhouse? Or perhaps a statement signaling that they are ready to chase a Super Bowl with everything they've got? Analysts are dissecting previous seasons, comparing defensive metrics, and calculating what Garrett's presence could mean in terms of sacks, turnovers, and overall impact. Every number is scrutinized, every highlight is dissected, and every rumor is magnified. But beyond the numbers, there's the intangible effect, the psychological edge. Garrett's reputation, his sheer presence on the field, is enough to alter the mindset of entire offenses, to make quarterbacks hesitant, to change the way plays are called in real time. And if history is any indicator, the Commanders could be on the cusp of a season that's as electrifying as it is unpredictable. In the end, this is more than just a signing. It's a statement. It's a bold, audacious move that signals Washington's intent to not merely compete, but dominate. Myles Garrett joining the Commanders is not just news. It's the spark that could ignite a fire across the NFL, a story that will be told in highlight reels, talked about in locker rooms, and analyzed endlessly in the weeks and months to come. The league is in shock, fans are ecstatic, and the ripple effects are just beginning to unfold. One thing is certain. The Washington Commanders, with Garrett now in their arsenal, have changed the narrative, and the NFL world will never look at them the same way again. This is the kind of blockbuster move that gets people out of their seats, that creates conversation long into the offseason, and that sets the stage for a season filled with intrigue, intensity, and perhaps a whole lot of chaos for anyone daring to line up against them. Thanks for tuning into District Command Central. Make sure to subscribe and follow us for all the Commanders news you need. Until next time, keep the faith and hail to the Commanders.